when you tell your story, when you pitch somebody, you're really a storyteller. And the key thing is to break down each small component of what it is that is your value proposition and creating small pieces of content around each one of those segments of your value proposition.
Right.
And that's what you put out.
Welcome to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you love entrepreneurship and investing in real estate, then you are in the right place. Josh is the CEO of Freeland Ventures Real Estate Private Equity and has personally invested in well over 500 properties all across the country. He's also made hundreds of private lender loans and owns over 1,000 units of apartments. Josh is an expert at raising private money for deals, and he prides himself on never having had a boss in his entire adult life. Josh and his team also mentor investors and entrepreneurs from all over the world. He doesn't dream about doing deals. He actually does them, and so do his listeners and students. Now sit back, listen, learn, and accelerate your business, your life, and your investing with the Accelerated Investor Podcast.
So hey, welcome back to Accelerated Investor. Josh Cantwell here again. I'm really excited, as always, to be with all of our listeners and all of our audience, especially in this very strange virus environment that we're in, to jump in, be live with you, to be very real time with you in the middle of this thing, and talk to you about strategies that are working in my business, and guests that I can bring on, and guys that can share with you about what's working for them and how this virus, sort of before the virus and after the virus, what they're seeing. Today, I have a special guest for you. His name is Dr. Adam Gower. He's got 30 years, listen to this, guys, 30 years of real estate banking and finance. He's got a PhD in banking history from the University College of London. He hosts his own podcast right now about real estate syndication. He's written books around real estate crowdfunding. And obviously, as I've talked to all of you about the Jobs Act of 2011, although it took time for it to take hold, is really been instrumental now in creating this whole alternate investing, alternate lending space. And Dr. Adam Gower is a leader in this space, and we're going to talk to him about his systems that he uses to help his clients recruit and bring in new investors. So Adam, thanks so much for joining us on Accelerated Investor. How are you?
Josh, I am so thrilled to be with you today. Thanks so much for asking me to be on the show.
Fantastic. You got it. So Adam, why don't you just tell us real quick, tell the audience, tell me about the Gower Crowd. Like, what is it? Help us understand a little bit. Give us a 30-second, 1 minute kind of background of what you're into right now. What do you do right now in your business to help your clients recruit investors?
All right. First of all, I want you to know something. We are talking about my favorite subject, which is me.
Nice.
So talking for 30 seconds or to 1 minute is going to be very, very tough, but I'll do my very, very best. All right.
That's all good. I can talk about myself forever too. So do your best.
Right. So Gower Crowd is, you know what? I've actually struggled to accept that what I do now, having had hundreds of years of experience in real estate investment and finance, is actually a digital marketing agency. That's basically what we do.
Perfect.
Agency and education. That's basically what we do. And the short story is that when the Jobs Act was passed in 2012, a couple years later, I migrated to a remote location. That's a whole long story, completely separate, all right? And I started investing. I dropped off the map, basically. I didn't retire, but I because the 2008 crisis was extremely good to me. And again, that's a whole nother long story, but you asked about Gower Crowd today.
Yeah.
So I found myself, I actually moved into an startup incubator at a university, and was surrounded by these young kids who were totally immersed in digital marketing.
Right.
And I started investing. I did some seed investing, and I sat in front of dozens and dozens of presentations, and Josh, they were talking a foreign language, right?
Okay.
The language of funnels and CRM and SEO and all this stuff that was like, I had no idea what they were talking about. It was about 5 years. And then the Jobs Act passed. And I realized that what that did was that it moved the needle for real estate sponsors like you and me, right, basically. And it said you don't have to raise money in person anymore. As you know, the 1933 Securities Act restricted solicitation for investment to people with whom you had a pre-existing relationship. In other words, you had to meet them, you had to know them already.
That's right.
What the Jobs Act did was it said, now you can advertise online, you can go online. So here I am seeing that with all the years of experience raising money in person, and at the same time seeing these digital wizards basically in this incubator. And I realized here is an extraordinary opportunity for real estate. So
an amazing way to automate the process, right? Whether it's through email marketing, video, but a sort of a predetermined path of selling and doing it through video marketing or through messaging that's automated and delivery, but still very personal, but automated in a way that you don't have to talk to every single person, shake every hand, kiss every baby, right? So that's what we're talking about. Is a lot of our crowds raise lots and lots of money, Adam, but a lot of our crowd is kind of like, well, I don't want to get into something that's super manual. It's going to take a long time. So whether they're experienced investors that are guys that are raising money manually, and you're kind of like, God, this is very transactional, this is brain damage. What we're going to talk about with Adam is going to make a lot of sense to help you. And even if you're new and you're just doing your first raise, maybe you're buying your first apartment or doing your first private lender loans, like, don't do it the old way. Like, do it the way that we're going to be discussing here, using digital marketing, email marketing, podcast funnels. That's what we're going to talk about. So, Adam, I'd love to hear your take on it. We do a ton of this already. I know you build this stuff for actual clients, and you charge for that. You work with big institutions, and you also have a training program, a course, where you teach people about how to do it themselves. So let's unpack that. So in the last 5 years, kind of leading up to this virus, what were you helping your clients do specifically? What kind of path were you putting them on to raise money more automatically?
Got it. So you know what? I'm going to make a distinction for you. There's actually almost two things. One, there's almost no difference actually between the new way and the old way, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
And two, you will spend no more time raising money the new way than you did the old way. The difference will be that you will be massively more effective in the time that you spend.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is basically what you're going to do. Think about it this way. However you raise money, and you just described it perfectly, Josh. Obviously, you know, I know you know what you're talking about. So, but basically, you described a sequence of events, right? A funnel where you have the various touch points, either an article or a video or a podcast or whatever it is, where you're communicating with an investor as they go through their investor journey to getting to know, like, and trust you before they actually invest with you. Mm-hmm. But think about it. That is actually exactly the same as you and I have been doing it for decades. The difference is, right, you meet somebody for the first time, just like you and I are talking about, what's your background, where you're from, is this guy credible, so you'll ask questions, etc., etc.
Right.
What's his experience, so you'll ask questions, etc., etc. And then eventually you get to the point where you do know, like, and trust that person in person, and then you're willing to invest. Well, all you're doing in the digital space, the quote, new way, unquote, is you are committing that same exact narrative, that same exact story that you give to people in person to the digital world. You're recording it,
right,
putting it out, pushing it out, so that prospects and investors can consume your pitch, your story, your background, and everything you know in their own time using one of these devices, which is a phone for anybody listening. That's the only difference.
That's fantastic. I love, Adam, the idea, and I'd like to hear your take on when you do it manually, like it's just kind of you, maybe sitting like I am in one of my home offices, doing this podcast recording with you. But if I'm home and I'm raising money by myself, one of the caps or one of the restrictions, one of the ceilings is it's only how much time I can invest. I only have so many hours in the day to talk to investors. That's one. The second restriction is, which I'd love to hear your take on, is controlling the message. Because as you talk to investors, I don't care how good you are, even if you're as good as me or as good as Adam at raising money, you're going to get kind of off script, if you will. You're going to have good sales calls and bad sales calls and good messages and days that you're on and days that you're off. There's days when I'm so on, I'm like, oh my God, that guy's going to invest $500,000 with me, no problem. Then there's days when I'm like, God, I totally blew that sales call, right? Because that's basically what it is. I'd love to hear your take too on not only blasting through the ceiling of being able to raise an unlimited amount of money because the digital environment is conveying the message for you, but also you've now contained the message to say the same thing over and over and over. And that's got to increase your conversions, right? So talk to me about those.
Yeah, so actually that's a really interesting thought that you have, because the word that comes to mind, and this is something that I would advise anybody embarking in the digital world not to worry about, and that is perfection. Mm-hmm. There's no such perfection. There's two expressions I like. One is perfection is the enemy of the good, and progress, not perfection. Don't try and be perfect when you go anywhere. It's okay to make mistakes. I sent out an email for a client yesterday, and their website was down. So we sent out a gazillion emails, and no one clicked on anything. It didn't work. Well, they went into a panic, and I said, look, you know what? It's okay. We'll just send a resend, and no one will care. And next week, tomorrow it'll be forgotten, so it's not a big deal. But here's the key, is that it's less about controlling the message so that message is perfectly framed. It's how you break down the message, how you actually segment the message into a coherent story. Mm-hmm. Because everything, look, when you look at deals, Josh, you know, especially in this environment, right? You go to somebody and they say, we've got a deal, the corner of Walk and Crossroad. What is the first thing you want to know? You want to know, what's the story? Yeah. What's the story behind this deal? Why are they selling? What's going on? Tell me the story behind this deal. Now, the numbers I'll get into. What's the story? Why are they selling right in the middle of a crisis? Right. When you tell your story, when you pitch somebody, you're really a storyteller. And the key thing is to break down each small component of what it is that is your value proposition, and creating small pieces of content around each one of those segments of your value proposition. Right. And that's what you put out into. You're not going to sit with, like when you raise some money from a prospect in person, both you and they are going to be subjected to an hour of conversation over lunch. Right. Or nobody wants to do that. Oh God, let's just sit down with Adam. So he's going to pick.
When people say, I'd like to grab coffee and pick your brain, I'm like, no thanks. Right? So raising money, when I'm talking to prospects, I've kind of got to do the same thing. And I don't really want to do that because they don't want to take the time. So we've raised tens of millions of dollars online, just like we're talking now, through podcast mediums, Zoom, GoToMeeting, Skype calls, stuff like that. Because once somebody's really interested, but they've been through this journey that you're talking about, now you've actually dialed this in using your science and your system. Ours is probably not as dialed in as what you do and teach. We do a lot of email broadcasting. We do a lot of podcasts with a big sort of more like get a lot of stuff out on the internet approach. And people just really like us. We have a huge email marketing list and people invest with us. So we could definitely tweak this a lot. But you're right. People just don't have the time. Even if they do have the time, they'd rather be golfing, spending time with their grandkids than actually sitting down and listening to somebody for an hour or 2 hours go through a real estate deal, right? They want to learn at their leisure. Yes.
So here's the thing. If somebody asks you, Josh, tell me about your background, right? You've got a hot prospect somewhere. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you're the one asking the questions, but I'm going to turn the lights on you now and ask you if you don't mind. Yeah. So what do you do if somebody says, I've got a, you know, or so, how do you introduce yourself? Do you arrange a phone call each time?
Yeah, so we do have some videos, YouTube videos and things like that. And if somebody does opt into our website or somebody does reach out. We get a lot of people that just call the office. We have a big email marketing list and students and subscribers already that want to know. So we send out a link to our website and some of our videos, a lot of credibility, but it's just very manual as opposed to automated through a funnel.
Yeah, so what we do is we take all these little pieces of content. So let's take your value proposition and let's just assume that you're able to take 10, 20, 30 components of that, right? And you break that down into individual pieces of content to discuss. And we can talk about specific examples if you want. It's
sure.
What's a multifamily? I mean, it's a kind of a silly one because you would think everybody knows, but they don't. You might have to explain it's an apartment building, right? What does that mean, multifamily? Right, so you put together a thought leadership piece, an article that explains the different types of apartments, multifamily. Then from that, you might be able to create video. You might be able to create some slides. What we do is we push those out on social media. Mm-hmm. So somebody who is on social media, who comes to look up a client's name, will find a whole host of different topics on their LinkedIn profile, Twitter profile, etc., Facebook, wherever they are. That's top of funnel. So that's an entry point for them then to come to the website. So each one of those posts has a CTA, a call to action that says to find out more, click here. Mm-hmm. When they land on the website, there's another CTA that says sign up. So this whole process is totally automated. When somebody signs up, they now get an automated sequence of emails that might be, I'm going to send you 4 emails. The first one, my background. The second one, our background as a company. Mm-hmm. The third one, the kind of deals we like. And the fourth one, where we think we are now. And you're going to get those over the next 8 days, right? So now you don't need to make that phone call. Plus, at the end of that, you might say, or even at the beginning, you might say, our minimum investment is $50,000. Mm-hmm. So if you want to talk to us, give me a call then, or click this button. Then when you get that button clicked, that they already know what the buy-in is. So they've self-qualified as an investor. There's nothing random about it. Are you accredited? Non-accredited, or don't know? Mm-hmm. So if you get accredited, yes, and they know that the minimum buy-in's $50,000, then you also know qualified, worth a call, or I'm going to send them a different sequence of emails. Mm-hmm. If the answer's non-accredited.
In my newest real estate investing book, The Flip System, you'll learn the proven secrets and strategies that I've used to be a successful real estate investor. You'll also hear the story of my journey from quitting my job to doing over 2,000 units of apartments. The Flip System is now available for a limited time, and you can grab your free copy at getflipsystem.com/podcast. You'll learn the same proven principles and secrets and investing strategies that I used to quit my job and pursue a life of financial freedom. In this book, I'm sharing exactly how I was able to personally close over 750 profitable real estate deals, make over 400 private lender loans, raise over $30 million, and acquire over 2,000 units of cash flowing apartments. Get my newest book now for free at getflipsystem.com/podcast. That's getflipsystem.com/podcast.
So I was kind of getting to the punchline anyway. The effect of that means that what you're doing in your funnel is you are creating segments or categorizing people that are coming into your network. Mm-hmm. Those that are qualified and those that aren't. And each time somebody hits a certain button, you can automatically send them a sequence of communication that moves them further and further along the funnel. So if they're non-accredited or don't know, you might send them educational materials. Here, learn this, buy this stuff if you've got educational materials. If they're accredited, you might start sending them case studies of deals that you've done.
Perfect.
Wait list stuff, join the wait list for the next deal, et cetera, et cetera. And what you'll find, Josh, is that when you do it this way, the first time that you have actual personal contact with somebody, and you know this because you've got a podcast, they already know you. They are already hyper advanced in what you might call the sales process. They are actually predisposed to investing with you, and you know they're qualified. That's the power of building a funnel.
Right.
Is that out there, every single piece of content you build becomes an asset to your company out there working for you while you're recording podcasts.
Yeah, and it gives them the opportunity to learn maybe while they're, they have free time. They want to watch a video on the phone. They want to read an article on their phone or from their computer. It's not tying them into a specific date and time. And they're able to get to know you, like you, and trust you while they're doing it on their time. But even if somebody falls off and stops watching your material, the automated funnel and the email marketing allows you to kind of pull them back on track with an updated or automated message, maybe 3 days later, 6 days later, even a month later. I've had some funnels that I built that were 2 years long, not necessarily for raising money, but that kept up these automated communications for 2 years.
Yeah.
And people buying our products or getting to know us, learning more about our businesses for 2 years, and never once actually picked up the phone to talk to people. So funnels can be super long and exotic. So Adam, let's talk for a second about the kind of top of funnel, very top of funnel, which is what I call awareness, right? A lot of times about you getting people who are cold, who don't know Josh Cantwell, don't know Adam Gower. You have to put things out into the world, right? To make people aware of you, to attract new prospects. So what are some tools that you talk with your clients and the people that enroll in your programs? What are some of the logistical things they can do that are top of funnel to create more awareness? We've already talked about some of the automated messages in the middle, maybe case studies, a survey, those kind of things. But what a lot of people want to know is, well, how do I just get myself out there to get more people into the funnel? Awareness stuff. So obviously there's pay-per-click advertising, but tell us a little bit more about what you do with your clients.
Okay, so the single most important thing, Josh, there is really only one thing. You could do pay-per-click, you could do list buying, you can do influencer marketing. We do all of that. You could do SEO. We develop all of this for our clients. We have some of the most sophisticated systems in the industry.
Nice.
But none of it does anything unless it's totally a waste of time, effort, and money. Unless you have one thing, content.
Yeah.
Content is the fuel that powers your machine. So I like to describe it like a car. If you build a website, that's like the body of your car. So you've got a gorgeous car in the driveway. That's your website. The engine is all the automation, the funnel, the your auto posting on social, auto responding emails, etc. That's the engine. But if you haven't got content, then you've got a beautiful website with a great engine, a beautiful car with a great engine, and no fuel. You're not going anywhere. So the first thing, the number one thing you have to do is identify what is your value proposition. What are your talking points? And this is something we're very, very good at. It's all part of the course that you mentioned at the beginning. It's all in there.
Yeah.
And then you create content. And from that, and you have to really be a content production machine. So from a video, for example, you can create video, you can create audio, you can create articles, you can create video shorts, you can create notable quotables. That's something that we create. So out of a single podcast, I will create at least 20 pieces of content. Imagine that, 1 hour, 20 pieces of content.
Wow.
So if you do 2 or 3 podcasts a week, you're now 60 a week pieces of content. After 6 months, you've got hundreds of pieces of content. Now what you do is you distribute that on social media, right? On LinkedIn, the main ones are LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and YouTube if you've got video. And that is your top of funnel content. That's what powers your machine. That's how you create awareness.
Yeah, love it. For us,
I can keep on going if you like.
We've been doing this exact thing. Oh, well, I just want to comment in that for us, it starts with this podcast, actually. My team and I had a podcast all the way back in 2015. It worked so good. It got really big that we stopped doing it like a bunch of idiots. And we got away from it. And then we came back to it. like about middle of last year. It was probably May, June of 2019. And that I worked with Ramey, who's on recording this podcast with us now, and said, look, man, this is really the rocket fuel. This is what we really need to be focusing on, because whether people are students of ours investing in residential real estate or multifamily or raising money or want to invest passively in our deals, it all starts with the podcast. You got to have a voice. You have to have content. You have to put something out into the world that is you're kind of planting your flag and saying, this is who we are. This is what we believe. And so we started putting this podcast out twice a week. We've been doing it now religiously for the past basically 10 months. And then, just like you said, we have a part of our team. We actually outsource a lot of the content creation to a separate third party. They create a bunch of other videos, a bunch of other blog posts, very similar to what you're talking about. And people have said to me, I had a guy actually just invest in the deal we closed yesterday. We closed a $20 million apartment deal yesterday, raised $3 million of private money. Like, one of the guys that invested said, Josh, you're everywhere, right? And that was exactly what I wanted to hear. That was really a testament. That's really a testament to our team, our marketing team that's distributing this stuff everywhere. I just get out and record and have fun doing interviews like I'm doing with you. But for him to say, you're everywhere, I'm interested in what you're doing, and then actually invest real money in a deal. It was, 506C, general solicitation, accredited investor, the whole thing. It worked exactly like what you're talking about. We weren't as methodical, I guess, as what you're talking about, what you do and what you do with your clients, but we got the same effect. We just haven't automated the process, man.
Hey, look, John, you know what? There's one word for it. That's it. It works. Yeah. That's the point. It works. That is the point, right? I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, I'll give you an example. And we talked about this before we started. Look, this is one of the most challenging times in the history of the economy around the world. I mean, this is as hard as it gets. And yet my business is, I have to tell you, having created this for myself, absolutely exploding, because the only way...
Tell me more about that. What's going on there?
So the only way to communicate today is online. You're not allowed to go out. You are forced to being online. And so in a way, it's accelerating the awareness that people have that the digital world is actually not an inconvenience. It's actually an amazing way to leverage your own skills, to leverage your time, and to get your message out there in a very, very powerful and effective way. It's like a force multiplier.
Yeah.
So that's, and so what's happening seriously, Josh, I'll tell you, it's just, I've been working on it for a long time, and I look at my analytics, and I've never seen anything like it. We are doubling down right now on content. When this thing hit, I was putting out 6 posts a day of original content on all channels.
Wow.
The second that lockdowns went in place, because it was tone deaf to what was going on, I actually shut that down and immediately turned up the volume on creating relevant content that talks to my value proposition.
Wow.
From zero. So if you don't mind, just a little plug, because I'm actually quite proud of it. If you go to gowercrowd.com, I've actually put a button up there just yesterday, COVID-19 resources. You can see what I've created over the last 4 weeks. It's my whole team is going, Google-eyed, because they can't believe how much work that they're getting from it. We're doing this for clients as well, by the way, doubling down on volume, massive ways. And all of that you see there at least times 10 or 20 is rotating on social media. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile or Twitter or Facebook, and all of those are /Gower Crowd, by the way, you will see this cycle of content. That's the awareness that you're talking about, that is all top of funnel. Every single one of those posts brings you back to the website, and every single one of those landing pages on the website says, click here for more, right? Basically. That's what you do.
Looking at your site right now, just the COVID-19 stuff and all these amazing interviews that you've done.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, this is great. This is a ton of great, amazing stuff. Yeah, so guys, as you're watching this, we're going to put this in the show notes, but go to Gower Crowd. You can see it in Adam's background there, gowercrowd.com, and you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, I'm on this website right now, that says COVID-19 resources. So click on that, and you'll see all these amazing interviews. Also on the site, he's got a training program where he teaches people how to do this for themselves, calls it the Investor Syndication Master System. And he's dropped the price by 80% during these, uncertain times to give more people access to this information. So you'll see it on his website as well. Just click on that and you'll find the training course. We'll also put the link in the show notes as well. Because guys, listen, Adam's taking the stuff that I teach, that I tell you that you should be doing, but he's actually has a digital marketing agency basically that will do this for clients, build this all out. So if you have the capacity that you want to raise tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, Adam's somebody that you need to talk to about potentially building this for you. If you maybe have a smaller need, or maybe you just don't want to raise as much money, or you'd like to just do it yourself, he has a whole course there that you can learn and go through his modules and learn how to do this yourself and build it out. So definitely check that out, because he's taken some of the things that I do and just put it on steroids and gone to a whole nother level. So Adam, you were talking more about today's market. So because people are home, that's definitely one of the reasons, one of the levers. People are home so they can consume more content. But also I just think we're learning now more how to just learn from home. Like my kids are learning from home. There's huge Fortune 500 companies working from home, operating through calls like this, Zoom and things like that. So this whole idea of raising capital through funnels is going to be more prevalent on the backside of this virus, not less, more prevalent. So what do you see happening over the next 6 months to 24 months and beyond?
Are you ready to automate and explode your real estate investing? We're searching for extremely motivated individuals who are sick and tired of wasting time and want to finally see real results from their real estate investing business. We're searching for investors looking to get to the next level and become a bigger, better version of themselves while being a more successful real estate investing entrepreneur. Apply for mentoring and coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. That's joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast.
Yeah. So it's funny you should say that. One of my regular programming guests, right, before COVID actually hit, was Brent Hegelke, who is CMO at CrowdStreet. And what Brent said was very interesting. He said, today, he said, basically, if you don't have a digital presence, you will cease to exist. And so what this event is doing for us is it is expediting the truth of that. And I was on a call with a prospect, right? This guy wants me to build a system for him. He said, why should I have one? I said, because you know what? If you don't have a solid digital presence, you will cease to exist. He said, don't even try and explain why that's true to me. So I said, no, think of it this way. This is what I'm talking about. Everybody has got somebody, high net worth investor, who wants to expand into real estate, alternative products. When they run a search online saying, where do I invest in real estate? Who can I send my money to, right, is the hidden story there. And you don't show up on their search, you don't exist for that person.
You're dead to me.
So you have to have a presence, because this is a tsunami that has been caused by this downturn, that everybody is learning to conduct business online, to do everything online in a way that nothing else could have done, right? It would have taken years to get to the same forced environment where everybody has to do everything online. This is the time to start talking, to put your digital marketing, to put your presence on steroids online. Because coming out of this, it will be the world that people will be more comfortable with than ever they have been before, because they've been forced to be in it for weeks on end.
That's right. Adam, So as we kind of round third here and head for home with this interview, I would love to know, because I'm partially interested for myself, right? So I even tell my audience, I do these podcasts for me to meet cool new people and to learn how they're doing their business. And I hope that my subscribers get a lot out of it, but I do it for selfish reasons. And thank God they get a lot out of it.
It's a great reason to have a podcast. Yeah. That's why I have a podcast.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm curious, if I onboarded with you, or any of my students or followers onboarded with you, help us understand, whether it's through your course or actually physically working with your digital agency, what's kind of the first step? What is it? Is it like a line of questioning to pull out the story? What's the first kind of thing that they're going to learn, whether they work with you directly or work through your course? What's that top awareness, creating the message? What is that? How do you start the process? What's the first step?
Oh, that's such an amazing question. That is one of the top FAQs in my world. It's the most often asked question. You nailed it. So just a couple things. First of all, we are probably backing off taking any more private clients at the moment.
Sure.
And we're kind of going upstream, just to be completely transparent.
Yeah.
In terms of the scale of the companies that we're working with. Very, very powerful, robust systems. So I'm not sure if we've got much bandwidth for more private clients. So what we're really focusing on is the course.
Sure.
And the Done With You programs. So the two most important things, Josh. Number one, you have to know who your audience is. So the best thing you can do, and we've got an amazing program for this, is to define your investor avatar.
Okay.
Who is your ideal investor? Who actually, quite literally, and again, there's a whole program we can take you through for this, to quite literally go through and identify what do they read, how are they educated, what do they do for a living, how many kids do they have, right? What are their concerns, what drives them, and find a photograph of somebody online that looks exactly like your avatar, right? And then print that out and put it up above your desk. And every time you write content or produce it, talk to that person as though they were sitting in front of you. So that's number one. The second thing, and I'm going to give you a deep dive here, right? So this is right behind the kimono. This is very, very, this is how you extract your own DNA, right? The next thing you have to do is break down your value proposition. You have to identify what you're going to talk about, right? So that's the next thing. And there's a few ways to do that. We have 3 or 4 techniques that we use to extract that from private clients. It is also extremely detailed in the digital course that we put out. But the way to do it, here's one way you can do that. Grab your latest offering documents. Right? So if you've got a pitch deck, right? You pick a $20 million deal, you presumably put together a pitch deck. Here's what you do with that pitch
private placement memorandum, pitch deck, the whole thing, right?
So grab a pitch deck, one of your pitch decks, and give it to somebody who doesn't know anything about real estate. Right? Anybody. Could be Dominic.
Yeah.
Have Dominic read it, and with a highlighter, have him go through and underline every single term he doesn't know. What is this? What's this term, Dad? What's multifamily? What's IRR stand for, Dad?
Yeah.
Right? Or anybody, doesn't matter. Write content about those terms. And here's the key. When you educate somebody this way, you are not just teaching them about real estate, because you know what? Anybody can find out about, just run a search online. What's the IRR? What's multifamily? And they will get 37 million hits with people teaching them what that concept means. They want to know what you understand about that concept. So when you put out a piece of content on the IRR, you are teaching people through your lens, the lens of your experience, what that concept is, so that when you pitch them an actual deal down the line, they understand how you think. They have come to see the world the way you see the world. So that means that they are predisposed to invest with you at the end of the day, because they will see that deal exactly the same way that you see that deal. So those are the two things that you should do.
That was awesome, Adam. Well, listen, Adam, it's been great visiting with you today. Again, Adam Gower, the author of Leaders of the Crowd. Adam, if my audience wants to learn more about you, we've already mentioned your website, gowercrowd.com. Your training, the investor acquisition system, which again is 80% off during this crazy kind of virus environment that we're having. We'll put links in the show notes for you guys to check that out. But any other final pieces of advice, words of encouragement that you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you can find out where I am, obviously, but at the website. But yeah, words of encouragement. Look, I am very, very bullish about where we're headed. I think actually right now, as dark as it may seem, is actually an extraordinarily good time to be making hay. Actually, to be learning how to communicate online, to be creating content, because if you do that now, you will emerge from this crisis stronger, more agile, and more effective than you went into it.
Fantastic. And Adam, is there any?
I can keep on going. You keep pausing, like what?
Yeah, no. Is there any other websites, phone numbers, email that you'd like to give out to our crowd to reach out to?
So what I would ask is, go to the website if you don't mind. I don't mean to be, hard to get. I want you to find me, right? Yeah. Obviously, but go to the website and sign up for anything that says sign up. If it's the acquisition course, if it's the how to build a better home office. Sign up for any of those, watch any of those videos. Most of I think everything's free, basically.
Nice.
But as soon as you sign up, you're going to get on my email list, and we are pumping out massive amounts of content at the moment that will help you navigate this crisis. You'll be in touch very, very closely that way. That really is the best way to get in touch.
That is awesome. Well, guys, there you have it. Listen, if you enjoyed this interview, leave us comments, questions, whether it's on our website, acceleratedinvestorpodcast.com, on iTunes. Leave us a rating or leave us a review. Let us know how Adam and I did today. We really appreciate your feedback. And again, for all of you that are asking questions and sharing this content on various social media platforms, thank you. Dr. Adam Gower, thanks so much for joining us today on Accelerated Investor.
Thank you very much, Josh. I enjoyed it very much indeed. Thank you.
You've been listening to Josh Cantwell and the Accelerated Investor Podcast. Leave a comment on our iTunes channel and let us know what you want to learn next or who you'd like Josh to interview. While you're there, give us a 5-star rating and make sure to subscribe so you can be the first to hear new episodes. Follow Josh Cantwell and his companies, Strategic Real Estate Coach and Freeland Ventures, on all social media platforms now, and stay up to date on new training and investment opportunities. To start your journey toward the lifestyle you've always dreamed of, apply for coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com.